The majority of our population has dealt with a bad boss at some point or another. We all know that these bosses have something in common, different behaviors and how they handle situations that are going on in their workplace. Forbes actually created a list of 31 things that different behaviors bosses have that make them bad. I've experienced 2 bad bosses. They were part of the same company and they fit almost every single thing on this list. I just want to share a few with you that I think a lot of people can relate to. Number 7 on the list was bosses who refuse to own up to their mistakes. In this particular job, my bosses had a problem with getting the schedules right. They were constantly changing our schedules and our hours we worked. A lot of staff was uninformed or unaware of these changes. Maybe it was overlooked by them, I'm not sure. I've been one of them, and they would almost make it seem like it was your fault that it was happening instead of it was their mistake. And it made us resentful towards them because bosses who can't own up to their mistakes, it's just, they need to own up to their mistakes. Any good boss would try to find a solution to the problem instead of pointing fingers or blaming anybody. They should realize their own faults, and there could be simple solutions like leaving us notes in our mailboxes or giving us a phone call and leaving us a voicemail if we don't answer, anything to keep us aware and informed of the schedule changes that were being made. Number 8 was constant turnover within the company. If you're a CNA, you know that there's a lot of turnover in every place, but this place in particular, they were pushing good workers out, and we know that the good workers, you want to be staples in the company and the business to keep the business flowing and people being taught right and things like that. I would think good bosses would recognize those people and do their best to keep them and not try to push them out for just little things, little mistakes that were happening that weren't really a big deal or a big issue. Number 10 was bosses who like to micromanage. These bosses had cameras set up throughout the house to watch us all day and all night, every shift. They had to get rid of these cameras when state came in because residents cannot be videotaped. So they were doing this illegally. Instead, they would have workers watch over the house. They weren't managers, they weren't our bosses, but they would just look over us and report back to them. They were on the same level. We were all on the same level when we worked there. So how we interacted with each other completely changed when they start kind of putting us against one another, intentionally or not. I think good bosses would be more trusting to their employees, because lacking trust in your employees is going to make your employees lack respect for you once they realize that you're not trusting them and can't trust them with anything, especially if they've shown you that they are trustworthy and do a good job for your company. The other major one that I think everyone can relate to when it comes to a bad boss is those that don't know how to say thank you. We've all probably felt unrecognized at our jobs, but this in particular, I would always come in every time they needed me. Someone called in sick or someone couldn't make it, I was always there. Whether it was a weekend I was supposed to have off if I had plans, it was hard for me to say no. And I never received one thank you for coming in and filling in, even on shifts that I wasn't supposed to work, to be there at 5 in the morning sometimes. And it just makes you not want to do good for your bosses. It makes you not want to do them favors, I guess I would say, because you know that they're not going to recognize it anyways. My boss now always makes sure to thank her employees. I've gotten cards, thank you cards for coming in. And simple things like that, employees recognize and acknowledge that they are being appreciated for the work that they do. We all know that there's qualities, certain behaviors that make a good boss, and a bad boss, a bad boss. A lot of it has to do with their attitude, and even though there's negative things happening within the company, they maintain a positive attitude and realizing there's room for improvement and finding solutions, and just not letting little things drive the company and make that the center of it. They need to focus on the good things that are happening and keeping everybody encouraged and on the same page. The attitude is really what separates a good boss from a bad boss.